All right, folks. I know Barry was given the link for various reasons. We'll probably be moving to this sort of format now, where there's just the trading room during the day, and then we'll start this up at this hour here. I know I'm only speaking to a few people so far, so I'm going to give it a moment here, let people trickle in. So while I'm letting people trickle in, if any of you folks have questions, early bird gets the worm and all that stuff. So go ahead and put those in for me and get rocking and rolling with your questions right away as others begin to make their way over here. Of course, as always, if no questions are going to come in, I will do my best as always to keep this informative and on topic and target with Trade Ideas software for the most part. So again, please fire in those questions for me. Get rocking and rolling with those. And I'm just going to give it another moment or two here to see if anybody else is coming over from the main room. Nobody's got any questions for me, then we will, or I will, do my best to keep this interesting as I can while focusing on Trade Ideas software. So, all right, it's 12:01. I know it's probably been a couple of minutes since Barry told people to head on over this way. So, yeah, I guess we'll get to it. All right, I suppose we'll start with the obvious big headlines here of some new all-time highs all over the place. Let's see, what charts do we want to look at? We started with, all right, I see the numbers ticking up over here just real quick. Kind of probably a new format where Barry's not going to run the YouTube stream all day anymore. Myself and the other traders will start a YouTube stream around noon Eastern, and you folks can migrate over from the main room to here. The open forum remains, so put those questions in if you have questions. I can't answer the questions that are not answered or are not asked. Aside from that, as per usual, I'll do my best to keep this as informative as possible, mostly related to the Trade Ideas software market. So, all right, I'm going to jump around the market a bit here. Let's look at regular candlesticks for this here. And again, don't hesitate to interrupt me with questions on the software. That's what I'm really here for. I'm not here to just talk the market and whatnot, because you can hear market commentary from anywhere, and I'm sure there are people out there that are way smarter than me when it comes to market commentary. So, yeah. Anyways, all right, so let's start with the SPY here. And I know we did this yesterday, but as we alluded to yesterday, there's a major event with the election. And for full disclosure purposes, I really avoid all news, all politics as much as possible. I do not turn on cable news. I have not watched any cable news. I see stuff coming through my Twitter feed. I never know what to make of anything. From my understanding, and I don't care if this bothers people, but from my understanding, it looks like Trump is going to win. I don't think it's been officially declared or whatever, and I'm sure there's going to be people pissed on the Democrat side about it, and so be it and all that. But it looks like Trump is going to win, I guess, so clearly a positive reaction to that. I would say if you went back and looked at the data, generally it's a positive reaction regardless of who wins. So whatever. I think that more or less the positive reaction is that this is going to be over finally, or it's nearing over at this point. People like myself will say, thank God. Couldn't end this election quick enough. Dread the next one. With that said, positive reaction to the market, primary trend. For those of you that are Dow theory folks, you know, you got your primary and secondary and short-term trends. Our primary trend is very clear. We've been in a bull market for about 2 years now. You know, pretty big deal here. Primary trend remains intact, right? So we can make of these things what we will. So this is, you know, year 2 of the bull market from here to here, right? If we get rid of this, we can scroll back and somewhere in here, you know, do you want to consider stocks bottomed here and that begins a bull market? I'm not going to argue against it. Do you want to say that stocks recovered to X amount here and that begins the bull market? I'm not going to argue against that either. Technical now, you know, I know we have specific definitions for these things, but, you know, a lot of these old ways are, you know, being tested and thrown to the side by some of the newer thoughts out there. So again, you know, what works for you or how you want to view this data. If it's working for you, then by all means. So like I said, you know, this is the bottom. That's clearly the bottom, you know, from the bear market, you know. And, you know, I won't argue. There are people that believe the bear market started back here, even though we were still near all-time highs, because market breadth had deteriorated underneath. And we could see the collapse, you know, kind of unfolding underneath with data. You know, other people say you had to wait till, you know, here when the 20% drawdown, or maybe it was here when the 20% drawdown happened to actually be a bear market. Either way, bear market, bull market, you want to say it started here or here, here, and all those things like that, by all means, argue amongst yourselves. Primary trend this way. Election now out of the way. Primary trend can now continue, it looks like. As I say all the time, and again, folks, if anybody has questions on the software or questions at all, feel free to interrupt me. This is not, again, meant for me to be talking at you. But with that said, generally speaking, I will always say that we could begin a sell-off tomorrow that becomes a significant sell-off into a correction and then a bear market. That could happen tomorrow. I have no idea. Is that likely to happen tomorrow? No, it's not likely to happen tomorrow. It's not likely to happen for the rest of this week. I even, you know, I would say it's not likely to happen for the rest of this year, barring some crazy thing that we can't, you know, predict or anything like that. But I would suspect we don't see any big drop in employment data. In fact, with the holiday season coming and people picking up extra jobs for the holiday season, things like that, we'll probably see unemployment data look good again. I get it. For those that are going to be the government manipulating with second jobs and people need 2 jobs to put food on the table and things like that. I get all those things. I get all those arguments. I'm not going to say none of that matters or none of that exists or anything like that. What I am going to say is that the stock market don't give crap. And if the stock market don't care, we're trying to make money, we shouldn't really care. With that said, primary trend intact. Working on this kind of hammer candle up here. And, you know, just a real bullish price action for the overall market. Qs. All right. 501, 503.52 being the all-time highs. I don't know if we took that out. 503. Yeah, so we took that out here. So we've made new all-time highs here in the Qs. We're sitting, you know, just below the all-time highs there, but we'd have taken it out on the day today. Again, very bullish price action overall for this. Diamonds going to look no different. In fact, going to look maybe the best of the bunch, right? I mean, that's a huge shot in the arm right there to really boost value, right? Because you're looking at the Dow Jones, you're looking more at value than growth, I think, as far as the companies in that 30 stock unit are concerned. So yeah, we're looking real good. Now, we talked a little bit over the last several months, IWM being a risk on, risk off kind of indicator for many. And it is indicating a whole lot of risk on right now, given the price action. Again, all these things could change on a whim, right? We can work with the here and the now. the ifs and thens and set up good trading plans and risk management plans. You've got all-time highs back here. We're here. So we are now less than, 10 points away from an all-time high in the small caps again. As I mentioned yesterday and several times before, one thing to keep in mind with the small caps with the IWM is if you took all the stocks in the IWM and their market caps and you multiplied it by 2, you're still way under Apple and Amazon and NVIDIA and Microsoft. And, the list could go on and on with several of the mega caps out there, right? So let's not kid ourselves about how this does and does not move the overall market itself. But what it does do is it gives, especially fund managers, a little more leeway or a little more comfort in their risk taking and going more growth than value when you've really got the small caps working, because that's where you see a lot of growth come out of, is the small caps, and they move on and out and new stocks move in, and the healthy life of a bull market, right? Rotation. We do not need the small caps, as I said yesterday. We don't need them for a bull market, right? It's very clear here. We've been in a bull market for a long time, 2 years, right? Small caps did nothing during the larger part of that bull market. And I mean nothing, right? They moved up, they moved down, they moved up, they moved down, they moved up, they moved back to the bottom of that range. They moved up and got stuck here at the top of the range, but they weren't making any noise, right? It wasn't until we really took that 110 out, or excuse me, the 210 out, and though we pierced it a few times, it's remained support after being prior resistance. So these are the kinds of things that we can glean. And we can start to set up risk management plans on the overall market itself. This kind of talk, or what I'm discussing here, it's for the broader picture of swing trading more than day trading, right? With the day trading stuff, if you just got an overall day where the market's looking good, it becomes a risk on day for the most part, because if the market is looking good, it's likely anything you're putting on for day trades that have looked good to that point will continue to look okay anyways. It's less likely to see things collapse and fall apart when the market's moving up during a day trade. That doesn't count for obviously the outliers of you've got these small cap bios that release some kind of phase 3 results, phase 2 or phase 1 or whatever it is, and they're trading on just that news and hopium and stuff like that, right? So always consider what we're looking at and what is relevant and relative to that. So some things that I noticed in the sectors, and I know we did some sectors yesterday for just a brief period of time, but KRE here, we're looking at our regional banks. This is up 11%, I believe, right now, 11.5%, excuse me, right, from yesterday's close. And I just can never do this enough because these people make me mad. Does everybody remember when First Republic was going under and the whole financial system was going to collapse, and another I told you so moment was coming out from all those crazy bears and Armageddon and, hug your family and load your guns and get your canned foods? Remember that, right? Okay, well, there we go. So I guess that didn't work out well for them, huh? I guess that doom and gloom wasn't all that accurate. And as far as I know, the banking system's still here. All my transactions going through. I'm sorry, this is one of these things that touches my nerves, because people that aren't doing the homework don't have the time to do the homework and research on a lot of this stuff. They go to folks like this that, look like they may be trustworthy and have an education on these things, and they're simply multiple things. They're disingenuous, they're dumb, they're liars, and they're deceitful. They end up hurting people because they make decisions based on what they believe are educated folks in the market. Most educated folks in the market will tell you, I don't know what's going to happen next, but if this happens, then this is likely to happen. That's what you want to be looking for. That's what you want to be listening for. Just do it with someone smarter than me. That's all. So with that said, regional banks, they're having themselves quite a day here, quite a month, and now quite a year, right? Regional banks, let's see, we start around here for the year on regional banks. Well, I guess here-ish, right? And it kind of chops sideways, and then a nice move up, little pullback, and just grinding higher for weeks and weeks and weeks. And again, could this collapse into the end of the year? There's no reason it couldn't, but the evidence isn't there to show us that it will, right? And so that's that's where we live with that. KBE is just going to be your overall banking sector. Also looking real strong here, 10%-ish, 10.4%, and it was somewhere around there. And again, the whole banking system was collapsing here. Remember, it was all collapsing, and clearly that did not happen, and it is what it is. So, one of the reasons why I focus more on the swing trading side of stuff at this point is because it's time in market, not timing of the market, although some timing matters, right? And, when I first started trading out, first started trying out trading, and I had a full-time job in a restaurant. I couldn't sit here always in front of a computer and trying to day trade 1 and 2 days a week when I could sit in front of the computer before going to a night shift at the restaurant. It was extremely difficult for me, and I just couldn't do it well. That's all there was to it. Just couldn't do it well. So I think that more people than less are in that boat and should have a realistic view and focus on swing trading, as that's probably a more likely option for them. So with that said, I thought it was very noteworthy for the banks just continue to crush it right now. A few other things to note here. Let's go back to a daily chart here and scroll back in a little bit more. XLF, the overall financial sector looking real healthy right now. XOP, which is your oil and gas exploration, having itself a day here, and where we see a lot, if we go through a lot of sectors in the overall market, we're going to see a lot of stuff that gapped up, here, and is kind of just chopping around where it gapped up to, maybe traded down a little bit. This is the opposite, so I do find that interesting. Gapped up to here, right? Came down a touch, and is trending higher on the day here. It's running into resistance at this 140 level, so I'm not surprised there. We look back in time and we see how much price likes to touch that level there. And I've surmised if we draw a line there, and let's do this because it's important to do these exercises. Let's do the work, right? That's how this all gets done. So draw that line there. And if we look back, yeah, price is touching that line a whole lot. Bunch through here, and again, and again, and again, and again. So 140 seems to be a level, whether it's whole numbers or whatever else you want to talk about. I can promise it's not random. What I find interesting about this is that we've been in a big downtrend on this here again. Going back into the spring. Very early spring here. We've been in a downtrend. Every time the buyers stepped into oil and gas exploration, the sellers came right back and punished them. So the question now is there a reason for the buyers to get excited here? Are we breaking a downtrend line, or are we just going to have another oopsie moment like this? So I won't pretend to know why this is going on, other than clearly most everything was going to gap up today, right? But the fact that this gapped up and isn't giving any back and is in fact adding to it and not running sideways, I just find that interesting. We'll see what that means in the future. Maybe it means absolutely nothing, right? But we won't know until the future unfolds. So we've got that really interesting item there. And the XLE here, another look at energy. Now, this one doesn't look quite as, let's call it, bad as the XOP did. And we start to wonder, did this break that downtrend back here? And it's testing it and trying to get up and bounce through that level right there. So, I don't know. As a consumer of gasoline and electricity and things of that nature, I sure hope this doesn't really go up too much. I don't want my bills to go up. But if it does, I'll be looking at energy stocks, right? So no way to really know, obviously. ahead of time, but we watch for, change in trend, right? Try to identify trends as, new trends starting as early as we can, and then formulate a plan based on if that trend is beginning to formulate. There's anything else from the winner's side that I wanted to look at here right now. And again, anybody with questions, don't be shy. Don't be shy. IBB here. Maybe look at the XIB too. Yeah. A bit of a trend going on there, right? Definitely an uptrend, but I don't know if there's anything nothing breaking out yet. Is it setting up for a breakout? We'll see. XIB is more set up for a breakout than the IBB, I would say. I do find it interesting. They both gapped up and gave it up and are down from the open, clearly up from the close. Nearly filled the gap here, right? Nearly filled that. I always find that interesting when a gap gets filled like that and starts to recover, because that tells me that the sellers couldn't keep the pressure on. Where do we stand? Yeah, still so far off all-time highs, right? We've got to scroll back into a weekly chart to really kind of see that back here. But, this could be something to keep an eye on here as a breakout level, right? Because if we start to look, we can break out of this finally here. It's really pushing up. It's really, really pinned itself into this corner here. And we start to look at, these other significant levels here. So certainly worth keeping an eye on for all of this. Let's see, Christian, fairly new to this. Could we see a demo of or talk about the AI tool? Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm here for. I love it when questions come in. Like I keep saying, this is never meant for me to just be talking to people. So we'll start with Holly here. And so this is how I have a Holly window set up for myself here. I just wanted to move it like that. Let me put a big pink X across it just real quick so we know that that's the Holly window, right? And what happens here is Holly's going to have a whole bunch of base strategies that optimize and back test each night. And the ones that optimize and back test the best get deployed the next day to scan the market. And if any stock meets them or meets the criteria of those scans, then you get a real-time alert with an entry price and a suggested stop price. There's some other data we can add here. We can see how I've got it. I've got an entry time here. The name of the strategy is there. Is it long or short? Obviously, symbol, entry price, last price or current price. We've got our change from entry, both dollars and percent that I put up there. This is max profit, and this is based on if I risked $100 per trade based on the stop loss. So if I was using this, for example, 389 here, let me get some more visuals. Sorry. Put some visuals here, right, Chris? Come on. There we go. So let's just say I took AREB and I was using 389 as the stop up here. And if a stop hit, I would lose $100. That's how I'm share sized on this. And this is just a hypothetical portfolio. This isn't, an actual trading of this or anything like that. But just to guide you. And so then we can see the max profit here to this point in it based on that share sizing of $100 risked, right? And that's the real short and skinny of it. A powerful tool that we could add to this here that we've got for right now on a browser, what we call our browser chart. So you can see here, I enable what's called browser interface. We have what we call TradeWave, and this is another algorithmic indicator, let's call it. Has some EMAs involved, some volume involved, a few other things going on behind the scenes. And this adds some buy and sell signals in real time to charts here. So we can flip it back and forth. Right now, this was a short trade, right? So I could flip this right now. It's looking at a long trade. We can flip it back and forth from short and long. Now I'll change things out a little bit here. And so we can see here, Holly made that entry here, right? And it's kind of moved sideways. and still moving sideways, and get a, you got another short call here, and then the algorithm called, the other algorithm, the trade wave algorithm called it. Let's close that short position. It doesn't really have to do necessarily with Holly's position. We get another short confirmation here on the trade wave, and it's so far looking good and working out nice. So it's a way that Holly and the trade wave can complement each other. And of course, we can show this from the long side to here. We look at the long side. And just letting that chart load up. Come on, trade wave. There we go. And so we can see the trade wave, to the long side right now. And early on in the day, we got that gap up here moving sideways. Trade wave never gave us a sell signal. Holly comes in, gives maybe a little extra confidence or boost on that, and grinding its way up like that today. Those are the real short and skinnies of Holly. If we right click and we select columns, there are other data points we could add here if we're interested. The right side is the master bank of all the data points we could add to look at Holly, and we could move them right to left by selecting one and then moving it with the arrow here. Or if we don't want to see one, we could select it here on the left and move it back to the right with the arrows like that. For some more info on Holly, so should we be interested? I did this video a couple of months ago now. I think it goes into pretty good depth of Holly. And so you could take that at your leisure and give it a look. And everything that I just covered there will be covered in the video. A little more in depth maybe. Now, that's just a general overview. If you have other questions about Holly, please, throw them in there. I will say Holly's a black box. You cannot, there's no adjustments to be made on Holly and her scans and things like that. You can create your own scans, of course. And you can, with premium, you can back test and optimize your scans. You just don't have the ability to run tens of thousands of simulations like Holly does each night on that. So, sorry, I'm also looking for the full Holly guide here. Let me share that with you or anybody else that's interested as well. Just a little more on Holly in there. There's a page that goes over the different strategies and gives a brief description of the strategies and what they're looking for. So for example, we've got there's a strategy that's called Little Big Guy. And it's looking at, mostly smaller price stocks, or Mighty Mouse or something like that's another one. Sunrise Mover, that's for, early alerts shortly after the market opens. Let's say, you could see alerts as early as, 9:35 Eastern in the morning after the market opens. Breakdown short, downward momentum. Those are, much clearer. Pull back long, so you got something to pull back and then, looking for a long on that pullback. Some of these are more self-explanatory than others, but in that Holly guide, which is the second link I shared there, it goes over, I want to say there's like 50-ish base strategies, give or take, and gives a short description. Some of the strategies we haven't seen fire in a very long time for whatever reason. It's been a long time since they back tested and optimized well, and it's just kind of is what it is with the algorithm. We try not to go in and tinker with anything and let the machine do what the machine does, to not interfere unnecessarily. And again, if anybody else has any questions about anything in software, please, please fire those in for me. All right, so I was just checking to see if there's any emails in for me that maybe I would want to direct them here to join us, but nothing. All right, so that's the quick, short, and skinny with Holly there. Let me get rid of this stuff here. I'm gonna jump back into doing the some of the sectors here. But if there's any other questions, please, I encourage to interrupt me if you have other questions. I encourage it. So yeah, we looked at a lot of the winner stuff there. Now I want to move into losers. Solar. My goodness. Wow. That is brutal. That is brutal. So solar continues to be one of the biggest losers of the past several years. Has participated nothing in this bull market that we've been in for about 2 years now. And I mean absolutely nothing. And I would even, hate doing this because it's always hopeful with solar energy. But clearly, people that would invest in solar energy don't see it as a viable investment or realistic use right now for energy. And we speak with our money, right? Everybody speaks with their money. And investors have spoken with their money that solar is not a path forward currently. I hope that changes. When I say I hope that changes, I just mean, we can always use new industries innovating the world, right? Never going to hurt us to get new, healthy, well-to-do industries innovating in the world. That's how we make progress in everything we do. All the technology that's ever existed, it was new at some point, right? There's been technologies that have been tried and tested and failed, and ones that obviously have made it. And clearly right now, the other thing too is if solar does well, if lithium ion does well, it creates jobs and industries and all those things like that, things for good, healthy economies. I just like to see people win. I hate to see anybody lose. That's all. But regardless of that, nobody betting on solar. That's real bad and having a real bad day today. And PBW is, clean energy ETF. And we can see the same thing here, clean energy overall. There's no believers in it, not with their money anyway. So the next time you hear a bunch of fund managers talking about they're real believers in clean energy and things like that, you can easily point to this chart and say, yeah, you're a liar. There's nobody betting money on this right now, and literally nobody. And it is what it is. This is about money. This ain't about right or wrong or good or bad or anything else. It's just about money. Now, what I do find shocking right now, gold is taking it on the chin a little bit right here. And I'm curious as to this because I believe cryptocurrencies are looking good. I had a chart of CIFR, I think it was. I think this is cryptocurrency related and having itself a decent day here. So I've been looking at the stock. Yesterday I was looking at it. And so I just, I figured maybe if crypto is moving, gold would move with it. But gold and silver have decided not to move with crypto at all. Sorry, it's a silver miners. Where's SIL? There's SIL. No, SLV, right? SLV. There's SLV. Yeah, so, precious metals not having themselves a great day today. Although, we could take a look here and, we've had a decent run on these. A run up and a pullback, a run up and a pullback, a run up and a pullback, right? But we're consistently making higher highs and higher lows as well. So, not unreasonable on the sell-off if we're just going to do it by the charts. And is there anything else? China, right? China was the darling not that long ago. Crazy run up on China, right? But, it's not a bad pullback and a consolidation after that run up, right? But China consolidated here and then could build on this. That'd be constructive, I think. KWeb, so that's your large cap Chinese stocks, and KWeb, very similar look. My drawing on the chart is almost superimposed to this as well. This is going to be your Chinese internet stocks. So we'll see what happens with China in the next little bit here. I mean, whatever they did with pumping a whole bunch of stimulus, and clearly it's going to have a short-term effect. I guess now we wait to see what the long-term effect is on that stimulus, right? And that'll play out over the next several months, clearly. Obviously, geopolitics will play some role in all this and things like that. I'll leave that to the brighter minds, and I will just stick to the charts. And right now, the charts say we liked it for a minute. Now we need to take a pause and digest it, and then we'll move on from there. That's what the charts are saying. So, all right, that's a good tour around the sectors. I don't know if there's anything else really we need to cover with sectors. Emerging markets. I mean, we could look at it real fast because nobody's asking any questions of me. So, emerging markets overall, an uptrend, got broken a little bit there. Picked it back up again, broken it a little bit again here. So we'll see what happens with that. But clearly on an overall uptrend on the emerging markets. Is this caution to the wind? It's breaking down the trend. Could be. Very well could be. And what I would encourage anybody, if anybody here is listening, they have interest in emerging markets, they're still trying to find their way in the world of trading. I am still trying to find my way in the world of trading. Exercise that I continuously do and that I would encourage others to do is, all right, well, if we look like a possible trend change is coming, what is the if-then scenario that leads to what we believe could be the piling on of that trend change, right? So for me, I'd be looking at a couple things here. Let's draw this line. That 45 number seems to be fairly important, right? Let's draw a trend line here. Trend lines are subjective, right? Where do I want this trend line? I want that trend line here. I think it's a realistic trend line of what's going on here. So we can ask ourselves here, this is some kind of support and resistance zone that I feel is significant. And we're going to scroll back in a second and check more price action in this line. We've had a good trend and a decent run up. We broke the trend line down here. We broke it slightly down here. Are we going to come down and test this trend line again? If we bounce from it, is that strength, right? We break down from it, is that weakness? And if it's weakness, where are we coming next? So these are the kind of exercises you should be doing on any time frame if you're still in the world of figuring this whole system out with trading and price action and charts. Looking back at emerging markets, let's go to a weekly chart. And we could see on the weekly chart, good amount of touching of this line, right? Good amount here, going all the way back to 2018, sorry. That would be 2020 COVID crash right there. So, certainly significant trend and support and resistance hand in hand, trying to give us a plan to formulate there. How can we set up an alert when 10 SMA crosses the VWAP? All right, so this is how I would set that up there, Debbie. I would go new, alert window, and I would use a 5-minute high alert. So I'd go ahead, search that out, click add alert. That'll bring me to selected alerts. I'm going to put a check in there. Let's get rid of the other thing there. And I would come back here and I would search VWAP. And I want distance from VWAP 1 on this case. I'd add that filter. And I'm going to bracket this in with a minus 0.25 and a 0.25 in the minimum and maximum columns. And I click on the show me function here in the middle. It's going to tell me what I just did. It's going to say show me stocks or prices no more than 0.25 above the VWAP and no more than 0.25 below it, or rate at it. And if I were to change this here, you could see what it does, So you can see it updates it in real time right there. 0.25 is kind of where I live with when I'm trying to build a cross alert myself. but you could make it tighter or looser, however you want. So we've now got price bracketed in on that there. And then we're going to take an SMA, 10 SMA, and 10 SMA, not SAM, SMA. And I don't know what time frame you're looking for this on, but I'm gonna go with the 5-minute time frame for this exercise here. And so I'm going to take that. I'm going to add that filter. I'm going to do the exact same thing, 0.25 minus 0.25, excuse me, and 0.25. And so we've done the same thing. We've bracketed in. It's using a histogram on this. All right. And 5 is good. Okay, cool. And then, the other thing we want to ask ourselves is there anything else we want to add to this? Do we want a price range? Is there a relative volume number we want, minimum or maximum, a number of shares traded on the day? Is it up or down from the previous day? Is it up or down from today's close? We don't have to add any of these things. These are just things that we can add to it, right? So, those are the kinds of things that I'd be looking at and looking for. And yeah, so could I share this with you? Of course. So I'll share this out as just a template like this, and I'll name it. And just please make sure you save it to the cloud. I go through and I delete things in my cloud that I don't use every so often. So, this cloud link that I share eventually will become obsolete. We're going to call it VWAP 5 10 SMA cross for Debbie. All right, press OK. Come here, window. And we're going to right click. Save or share to cloud. I'm going to copy that link. And we're going to pass it over here. There you go. Perfecto. Excellent. So, now one of the things, I don't know where you stand in the world of experience here with the software, trading charts, all that stuff in general. But I think one of the important things that I learned, especially in level 1 of CMT courses, is that while crosses can be very useful, they can also be very dangerous in the sense that if you've got something running sideways, right? Something's running sideways like this, doesn't matter time frame, it crosses over and over again. And, that signal led to nothing. And this signal down led to nothing. And this signal back up led to nothing. And this signal back down led to nothing. So sometimes crosses where there might be some underlying trend could be useful. So something you could consider when you're tinkering around on this on your own. Maybe one of the change filters over X amount of time, you see it up a few pennies, $1, depending on your price range, obviously, it's going to matter. You use percents instead of dollars, of course. You could always tie it in with, the overall market being up or down. I don't know if you're looking for crosses up or down, because the template is for cross up or cross down. Then you can determine afterwards, adding some kind of trend there. If you want a tight range, you could always, do that too with one of these range filters down here. And you could, bracket in a very tight range between X amount and X, a maximum of, maximum range of, 0.25% or something like that, or 0.15%, something like that. Those are things to consider as far as that goes. And a lot of different filters in here that you can experiment with, not just in that scenario, but, many other scan building scenarios as well. You may want to see that cross happening with some kind of significant volume coming in. So there's always, the 1 minute volume somewhere here, that 1 minute volume or 5 minute volume, something like that. And you can be looking at all those things. I don't know if the options volume would necessarily be something you'd be all that interested in for this, but that's up to obviously each individual trader. I'm not an options person, so I wouldn't personally consider it. It doesn't mean there's no right or wrong necessarily for the most part. If you wanted to see something with, where is it? Change from the open instead of change from the close, right? There's all that. Position in range is another way to look at a stock that maybe if a cross happens and it's above, X amount above the low of the day or something like that. Another item you might want to look at for finding the trend or defining a trend. And I don't think you necessarily want to add any other SMAs, but I mean, there are some other ones there. And then down here, we get into fundamentals. I don't think that fundamentals play a whole big role in a cross, but excuse my yawning. Excuse me. But I'll leave that for you to determine. So if you have other questions on that, Debbie, please don't be shy. Let me know. Get rid of that drawing and close that out. What else? Yeah, I use the View app a bit myself in my day trading when I'm allotted time to day trade. I don't always get time for day trading, unfortunately. Maybe it's fortunate sometimes. It keeps me out of trouble. There's always the flip side of it. So, the View app, I would think for the most part, what I notice is the more popular an indicator is, the more significant it seems to become. Like, clearly no magic indicator necessarily, but View app is probably one of the most popular indicators for day traders anyways. And so when you've got a lot of people that are using the same thing and looking for a bounce from a View app and anticipating or a move through it and a continuation of the View app, becomes a somewhat self-fulfilling prophecy. I've learned or observed, I guess. Yeah. So, a lot of times when I do these live streams, I like to go through the top 10 of my relative strength from the open scan, but I've had to close my layout several times today doing some troubleshooting of other users' layouts and loading them. So I don't have the original top 10 that was here, and that's why you're only seeing 5 stocks there, unfortunately. One of those, it is what it is, but kind of a bummer moments. So, what are you going to do? But we can look at, let's look at the last winner, ELWS. We got a few minutes before I wrap up for the day here today. So, sorry, let me get rid of this first. Clear up my screen a little bit, and let's try that again, ELWS. So, on the daily chart, there's not much here. It looks like it loves to trick people, get their hopes up, leave these big topping shadows and all that. On the uptrend today, small float, but all over the place. I shouldn't say that's not a but. Small float and all over the place, because that is very hand in hand. I just looking at the price change from here to here over 15 minutes. I mean, it's a pretty wicked price change, over $1 between those 3 bars like that. 1 million in the float, good volume kicking, liquid. Volume came in, faded, came in even bigger, faded, came in even bigger and longer, and still sticking around right there. So this thing is no easy trader by any stretch of any imagination. The spread is wacky because I was just watching it. It was at a penny, and then it went to 11 cents, and went to 7 cents, and back to a penny, and now it's at 7 cents again. So the spread is all over the place on this. So definitely a tough trader there. RAPT. Another ugly daily chart here, and having itself a day regardless. While someone may say, well, having a day, it's up only 28 cents, right? But it's a $2 stock, and it's up almost 11.5% rate now. And that's after it's already sold off from way up here. So this thing was up, 20 some odd percent. So quite a move there. Not a large float, but definitely not the smallest of floats. 31.5 in there. Pre-market earnings tomorrow, so I don't know, maybe some kind of anticipation of that that's going on. Not really sure, but I would say that the candlesticks on this are definitely less volatile than what we looked at with ELWS. That's for sure as can be. NOTV, you can see that's here right now. Moving up 50 cents, good for 26.5% on a $2 stock. And again, all these ones that we looked at so far have nothing constructive on the daily chart for bulls. They're all really just interest of the day. Volume came in and stepped down, and then came back in and stepped down, and came back in a bit, not quite like what it was. Kind of dried a little bit now. We traded 900,000 shares on the day, or almost 906,000. 900,600, excuse me, with an 11 relative volume there. So, volume's kicking compared to normal. Not most liquid of stocks, certainly not illiquid, but just one of those things you want to be careful with when you see volume coming and going like that on a stock like this. You don't want to get stuck holding the bag, and all of a sudden the spread becomes wide on you and you can't get out for a reasonable price. 24 million in the float, so on the small side of floats. CTKB. Clear these drawings up. Just really did most of its move here in the first couple of minutes of the market, and just moving sideways afterwards here. Had earnings yesterday after the close, so it's clearly in a reaction to the earnings going on right now. And then, of course, the big gap up today, I'm sure, played a role in helping that gap up. And again, clearly a positive reaction to earnings. Decent liquidity and volume, obviously, although we've seen the volume kind of gradually die all day. Take a little shot back up there. Again, another chart on the daily chart, not really anything constructive. I mean, yes, a trend reversal has to start somewhere. So could this be the trend reversal start? It's not impossible, not unreasonable, right? Some areas to look at here on this, as if we were for some reason looking at the daily chart for something maybe a little longer that sparks our interest. But for the most part, it seems like it's kind of gone to sleep price action wise. Doesn't seem unreasonable for that to happen. I mean, it's up to, it was a $6 stock. It was a $5 stock-ish probably, right? Yeah, it was $5 and change yesterday. And at the close there, and now it's up over $7. So $1.67, 30.6% move. How much more does it have in the tank? Always a good question, right? And LUMN, let's round it out with that. That's an interesting chart here. So really rocketed up. When it sold off, did not go back down here all the way. It's a sizable float right there. And that thing continues to track higher and higher. Lifetime high, $16. So you got to go hit the Wayback Machine to see that. Clearly a positive reaction to earnings overall. Market gaps up. What's really interesting, right? Look at this. Market gapped up, very sizable gap up today, right? This stock gapped down and then traded down in the first 5 minutes before turning itself around. That's a hefty move here again. So we've seen some hefty moves on some of these lower price stocks, dollar and percent wise. So very, very noteworthy as far as I'm concerned on some of these things here. I like to notice these anomalies. The rest of the world, rest of the U.S. stocks and the market overall gapped up, and somehow this didn't. And yes, there are obviously stocks that did not gap up, but more gapped up than gapped down. And this is one of those cases on the opposite there. So definitely noteworthy. So, everybody, I'm going to wrap this up here in a moment and shift you all back to Barry's room. But I'll give it another moment or two here before I shut this stream down and have you all move that way. If someone's got a question, now's your time to get it in, right? And do my best to, of course, answer that for you. And any software questions whatsoever, I'm happy to answer those. That's why we do these streams here. I wish more people would show up to them. I believe that, anybody that truly puts in the effort, can find their way with this software in the market. But, there's no shortcuts. Work's got to be done. Is there a way to create an alert with EMA? No, unfortunately, no EMA filters. We have no EMA data as far as scanning goes. You put it on charts. We only have SMA filters. Sorry. I can't get to the other site. This link should get you to the other site unless you have something blocking you. But there's, 200 people in there right now, so it's certainly open. So you should be able to get there without any issues. I'm lying. Well, it says 400 people are in here, but I suspect there's some duplicates. So I'd guess around 200. But you got it. Barry no longer streams YouTube, so now we actually have to leave one site and log into the other. Yeah, it's bogging his entire system down. The software that we're using, even though we were told the software doesn't bog down systems, it does it to me. It does it to the other guys. But Barry even more because he's running multiple streams and we're not. And it's to run Trade Idea software, a broker. Multiple streaming services, all that, it's taxing on these machines, unfortunately, and it's more than his can really bear anymore. So for now, this looks like what we'll be doing, where folks will have to navigate this way. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps we'll make some other kind of change. I'm not sure what we'll do right now, but we'll see how it all goes. Let's see how it all goes with this. You're welcome, Alicia. So, all right, folks, no other questions coming in. I'm going to shut it down for the day here. Tomorrow will be Steve. I believe Andy will round out Friday. I just want to, end with this. Keep your cool and your calm about you with the market, right? I understand the pressure that everybody feels to turn a quick profit in the market. Unfortunately, the market does not work that way for 99.999% of people. Just not how it's designed, and it's designed that way on purpose to feed the beast. So be careful where you're taking information in from. Price and volume are the only truths in the market. You can't argue price. You can't argue volume, right? You can argue them, but you're going to be wrong. Technical analysis can be argued. It's subjective, right? Support and resistance is subjective. Something's going to bounce off some kind of moving average or an RSI is going to play some role in it. We'll only know after the fact because everything else lags price and volume, right? And, doing the homework and taking your time can save you a lot of heartache and wins into the future versus, really rushing and forcing things here. So I'm saying this as someone who I don't know if I made every mistake, but I certainly was probably trying to make every mistake that was possible in trading. And I'm still no genius in the stock market by any stretch of anyone's imagination. But from where I started to where I am, I've certainly grown a lot. And I'd like to see other people do the same. And even if you're not doing it with Trade Idea software and you're just doing it on your own and kind of popping into lessons like this and Q&As like this from us and other folks, room for everybody at the top. There's no reason that, many people can't do well in the stock market, but you got to put the work and the effort in. So just hope you glean something from this. Again, thank you all. I'm going to shut down the stream now. You have a wonderful rest of the day and week, and I will see anybody that decides to pop back in here. I'll be back on Tuesday. Thanks again, folks. Take care.